Hey, it's a Shane Point to the Word. This will be part number 3 of marriage and roles God has given us. So I wanted to include real quick. So the verse I've been kind of quoting the past couple times. For this cause shall man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife, and they two shall be one flesh. My friend Bruce actually just posted this on Facebook today, and I thought it was only in like 2 places that this could be found, but so it's in Genesis 2, Matthew 19, and then now in Ephesians 5, verse 31. So I thought that was kind of cool. I wanted to include that real quick before I forgot. So yeah, you can find that verse in more than 2 places, so that's cool. Yeah, for this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto one, unto his wife, and they two shall be one flesh. So yeah, I thought that was cool. And so today I'm going to focus on why basically you shouldn't marry an unbeliever if you're a believer. So basically, piggybacking off of that, two, saved believers should be, uniting as one flesh, because I can only speak from experience how half of my relationship with my wife, we've known each other since 2011, so we're 11 years, and about, I want to say, four of those 11 years, about 4 or 5 were very rocky and just super like rough, and um, yeah, and like after that, I don't want to say it's been smooth sailing, but it's been just night and day. So it's very important that as believers we really try to do our homework and really make sure that we're gonna date, court, whatever, another believer, and make sure they're genuine, because I was telling my son, like, there's believers, there's unbelievers, and then there's kind of those that profess to be believers, but they act like unbelievers. And so unfortunately, this day and age, we have a lot of those among us. And so Jesus said, you'll know them by their fruit, and things like that. So that's really where discernment comes in play. So really need to be relying on God for all that stuff. So but yeah, I want to talk about a couple things. They're both actually in the book of First Corinthians. So first one's in 1 Corinthians 11, verse 3. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. So basically, this, honestly just sums up, in a nutshell, everything about, the series I'm doing, so, God is the head of, Christ, and, I'm sure that's a role, kind of thing, I do believe in a Trinity, so, I'm sure that's, some kind of role, but yeah, so like, and then, you know, the head of every man is Christ, and the head of, the woman is man, so, it falls right down in line, and, like I was, telling my son, um, since, we've been on this topic, like, you know, yeah, God has given us different roles as men, and man and husband. We're ahead of the woman. So we're I try to break it down in terms he understands. So I'm like, yeah, we're boss. We're like the leaders, but you know God made Eve a help for Adam, and that absolutely does not mean that we just get to boss women or our wives around. That's not the reason God gave us that role, for our own selfish pleasures, or carnal reasons like that. So and I and things I'm going to be reading later on. I know women that have been are in these submissive kind of roles, and servants, and that's awesome. And the men will take advantage, unfortunately. And they're basically like kings, and they act just tyrants, basically. So that's absolutely something that we don't want to do. And, our role as a man is a leader, and I'll go over that in future videos, Lord willing, because we're not talking about the roles of man right now. But I just want to briefly cover that in this section, that that is how God set that up, and it's not something that we should boast of, or things like that. So anyway, going back to the main topic of you should not marry an unbeliever. I'll go to 1 Corinthians chapter 7, and in the heading it says Paul discusses marriage. So this might be a long read, so I don't know if you might want to pause this video and kind of stand up and run around, or I get it, like once a person's reading something, your mind kind of shuts off, and your eyes glaze over. So I don't know, try to entertain yourselves, and pray to focus on what's being read in the Word. So 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Now concerning the things whereof you wrote unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman, nevertheless to avoid fornication, or some versions will say sexual immorality. Nevertheless to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. Let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence, and likewise also the wife unto the husband. The wife has no power over of her own body, but the husband, and likewise the husband has not power of his own body, but the wife. Defraud ye not one the other, except it be with consent for a time, that ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency. But I speak this by permission, and not of commandment. So now, Paul's basically, talking. For I would that all men were even as I myself, but every man has his proper gift of God, one after this manner, and another after that. I say therefore to the unmarried and widows, it is good for them if they abide even as I, but if they cannot contain, let them marry, for it is better to marry than to burn. So now the next header says marriage vows are to be taken seriously. And unto the married I command, yet not I, but the Lord. So now this is so this is what the Lord's saying. Let not the wife depart from her husband, and if she does depart, I'll say it over because I'm stuttering my words. And if she departs, let her remain unmarried, or be reconciled to her husband, and let not the husband put away his wife. But to the rest speak I, not the Lord. So now Paul's talking. If any brother has a wife that believes not, and she be pleased to dwell with him, let him not put her away. So it's saying if any man, has a wife that doesn't believe, so an unbelieving wife, and she be pleased to dwell with him, let him not put her away. So she wants to be with him, that's fine. And the woman which has a husband that doesn't believe, an unbelieving husband, and if he be pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him. Okay, so that would be in my situation exactly what happened with me. The woman which had a husband that didn't believe, me, and if he be pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him. And that was a case. There was like a short stint in like 2013, where I almost wanted to break up with my wife, fiance at the time. But I stuck around, And anyway, so continuing in verse 14, for the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Else were your children unclean, but now they are holy. But if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. A brother or sister is not under bondage in such cases, but God has called us to peace. Okay, so, if, back then, the unbelieving, if I departed, if I left, that would be fine. That would not be, um, under bondage in that, kind of case, because God calls to peace. And so the last verse, for what knowest thou, O wife? And okay, so I'm gonna pause here. This, wake up if you guys are falling asleep. This is like, how people have like life verses and stuff like that. Like, this is literally mine. Like, this, I said in like the introduction, whatever you want to call it, like, video for this series. Like, I can totally attest that the Bible is true. And this right here, this verse is like my life verse, and like this verse means so much to me, because I lived this. So, verse 16, 1 Corinthians 7, verse 16. For what knowest thou, O wife, whether you shall save your husband? Or how knowest thou, O man, whether you shall save your wife? So obviously, save, like your wife's not saving you, your husband's not saving you. Obviously that's the power of Jesus Christ. But yeah, I mean, like, the woman or man, the believing husband, the believing wife, should direct, the unbelieving spouse in the direction of, Jesus Christ, for salvation. So I'm sure that's what that verse means. But yeah, that verse means so much to me personally, because I lived through that. And so I'll probably end it there. And then next time we'll probably talk about roles of women and stuff like that. So yeah, hope you guys have a great day. Bye.